19 facts that blow your mind.
Today, we're uncovering a side of history that rarely makes it into the classroom. Despite what you learned in school, there's a wealth of fascinating and shocking historical facts that often stay hidden. From enigmatic events to untold stories, we've dug up 19 incredible facts that reveal just how much important information gets left out of textbooks. Number 1. Count Dracula, aka Vlad III Tepes. The image of Count Dracula, the popular vampire from Bram Stoker's novel, was inspired by a real historical figure, Vlad III Tepes, also known as Vlad Dracula. Vlad III was the Prince of Wallachia, now part of Romania, in the 15th century, and was known for his cruelty to his enemies. He had castles in Transylvania, where his lands were located. Tepes received the nickname Dracula from the word Dracula, which means dragon or devil in Romanian. His father was also a member of the Order of the Dragon, established in 1408 by the King of Hungary. Vlad received his second nickname, Tepes, which means stabbing in Romanian, for his habit of putting people to the stake, one of the most painful and agonizing types of execution. Vlad's particularly brutal methods were directed against the Ottoman Turks, with whom he waged constant wars. According to various estimates, Vlad Tepes put more than 20,000 of his enemies to the stake. Such cruelty led to the creation of the legend of the bloodthirsty vampire, which later formed the basis of the literary Dracula. Number 2. The Second Anglo-Boer War. The war, 1899–1902, which took place in South Africa, was a pivotal conflict between the British Empire and the Boer republics of the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. The war was primarily fought over control of the region's rich natural resources, including gold and diamonds, making these territories strategically vital for Britain. This war was the first in the world to see widespread use of trench systems, foreshadowing the tactics of World War I. The Boers, with their superior knowledge of the terrain, conducted guerrilla warfare using mobile cavalry units. In response, the British resorted to the widespread destruction of Boer farms and the establishment of concentration camps for the Boer civilian population, leading to high mortality rates due to disease and poor living conditions. An interesting fact: the famous writer Arthur Conan Doyle, creator of Sherlock Holmes, participated in this war as a military doctor. After the war, he wrote The Great Boer War, in which he defended Britain's actions, believing they were necessary to preserve the empire. Number 3. Female samurai. In Japan, there were female samurai known as onabugisha who fought alongside men. These women were trained in martial arts and possessed high military skills, allowing them to participate in battles on equal terms with men. One of the most famous of these warriors was Tomo Gozen. She was a renowned warrior of the Heian period and took part in the Genpei War, 1180–1185, known for her skill with a bow and sword. Female samurai were most active during the Sengoku period, 1467–1603, also known as the Warring States era. During this time, Japan was divided into warring feudal states, leading to frequent military conflicts and struggles for power. In the constant state of warfare, some samurai families allowed their women to participate in military actions to protect their families. Number 4. Cleopatra spoke 9 languages. Cleopatra VII, the last queen of Egypt from the Ptolemaic dynasty, was known not only for her physical beauty, but also for her outstanding intellectual abilities. She was a political leader, diplomatic expert, and a scholar with extensive knowledge and education. Historians report that Cleopatra could speak at least 9 languages. Ancient Egyptian, the main language for official documentation and ceremonies in Egypt, though it was no longer a spoken language in her time. Coptic, the direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian language used in Christian Egypt after the fall of paganism. Greek, the predominant language in Hellenistic Egypt, as the Ptolemaic dynasty was of Greek origin. Latin, the language of the Roman Empire, with which Cleopatra had political and military connections. Aramaic, an Eastern language used in diplomacy and trade in the Middle East. Persian, important for relations with the Persian Empire. Syriac, a language spoken in Syria and Eastern territories with which Cleopatra maintained connections. Hebrew, the language spoken in Judea, useful for diplomatic relations with Jewish rulers and merchants. Cypriot, the language spoken on the island of Cyprus, significant for trade and political relations. Number 5. Inca thatched bridges. Inca thatched bridges represent one of the unique and little-known aspects of the engineering prowess of ancient civilizations in South America. These bridges were a major element of the Inca Empire's transportation infrastructure, especially in the highland regions of Peru and Bolivia. The Incas built bridges out of straw and grasses that were so strong they could support the weight of hundreds of people. Some were used for centuries. One of the largest bridges spanning the Apurimac River was 45 meters long, and the distance from the bridge to the river was about 80 meters. The last structure collapsed only at the end of the 19th century. Number 6. Roman underfloor heating 3 centuries BC. The Roman central heating system, known as the hypocaust, was one of the most advanced engineering technologies of its time, providing comfort in Roman Empire buildings. This system was developed around the 3rd century BC. The principle of the hypocaust was to heat air, which then circulated beneath floors and within walls of buildings, creating warmth. In buildings with hypocaust systems, a special underfloor space was constructed between the floor and the ground. The air was heated in a furnace or boiler, usually located in a basement or special room. Hot air circulated through pipes embedded within walls and floors. These channels provided even heat distribution, warming the air and surfaces of the rooms. Systems for draining condensate and excess heat were also included to prevent damage to structures. Hypocausts were most commonly used in Roman baths, known as thermae, and in private homes, especially those of wealthy Romans. Number 7. Napalm in Antiquity, Greek fire. Greek fire was developed in the early 7th century, presumably in 673 AD by a Byzantine engineer named Callinicos of Heliopolis. The Byzantines sought a way to protect themselves from attacks by Arabs and other enemies, and Greek fire was their answer. The composition and production method of Greek fire were kept strictly secret and remain unknown even today. There are theories that the mixture included substances like sulfur, oil, resin, hydrochloric acid, and pitch. These components gave it the ability to burn on water, making it especially effective in naval battles. Notable uses include Battle of Dardanelles, 674-678 AD. Greek fire was first used in the battle against Arab fleets besieging Constantinople. It played a key role in defending the Byzantine capital and securing a Byzantine victory. Siege of Constantinople, 717-718 AD. During the siege by the Arabs, the Byzantines used Greek fire again to repel enemy attacks. Number 8. Khipu codes of ancient Peru. The Incas used a unique data recording system known as Khipu, which consisted of knotted strings. These knots represented a complex coding system that allowed the transmission of information about taxes and military operations, and even created coded messages. Quipus were known to Spanish conquistadors, but active study began only in the 19th and 20th centuries. Scientific research has uncovered some aspects, though a complete understanding remains a challenging and unresolved task. Researchers have identified basic principles, such as types of knots. Certain knots could denote numerical values or other data. Colors and lengths of strings. These elements also play a significant role in interpreting the information. Modern research employs computer technology and comparative analysis to understand the system. But despite significant progress, complete decoding of quipus remains elusive. The technology and practice of using quipus, along with their encryption algorithms, have been lost. Number 9. The Black Death in Europe. The Black Death pandemic in the 14th century not only killed millions of people, but also led to significant social changes. The Black Plague was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, transmitted by fleas living on rats. The epidemic began in Central Asia and spread through trade routes, including Black Sea ports and caravans. Initial outbreaks occurred in southern Europe, such as Sicily and Naples, after which the disease rapidly spread across the continent. The Black Death claimed the lives of approximately 30 million people, which was 30% to 60% of Europe's population at the time. These figures vary by region and source, but the scale of loss was catastrophic. The loss of a significant portion of the population led to a decrease in the labor force, which altered social and economic structures. As a result, wages increased and living conditions improved for the remaining workers. Many countries experienced political and social upheavals. Feudal power weakened, and in some regions, urban power strengthened and new socioeconomic classes emerged. Number 10. Devil's Bridge in Germany. The Devil's Bridge in Germany, or Teufelsbrücke, is a name that refers to several historical bridges in Germany built during the medieval period. One of the well-known bridges by this name is located in Regensburg, Bavaria, and another is in Zwickenburg, in the Thuringia region. These bridges received their ominous name due to legends associated with their construction. The legend says that the bridge was built with the help of the devil in exchange for the souls of the builders. The Regensburg Bridge was constructed between 1135 and 1146. It is a stone structure built in the Romanesque style, featuring several arches and sturdy pylons for stability. The bridge was an important trade and strategic object, connecting the banks of the Danube River with the city of Regensburg. The Devil's Bridge in Zwickenburg was built in 1249. It is a stone structure with several arches in the Gothic style typical of the time. One version of the legend says that the devil agreed to help with the construction in exchange for the soul of the first person to cross the bridge. However, the locals tricked the devil by sending a cat across the bridge first. Number 11. Leonardo da Vinci could write with both hands simultaneously. Leonardo da Vinci, 1452–1519, was one of the most brilliant geniuses of the Renaissance era. His talent spanned many fields, including painting, architecture, science, engineering, and anatomy. One of the lesser-known but astonishing facts about Leonardo is his ability to write with both hands simultaneously. Leonardo da Vinci was ambidextrous, meaning he could use both hands with equal skill. There is evidence that he could write with both hands at the same time, not only on one side of the page, but on both sides, creating two different texts. This was an amazing display of his rare talent and ability to manage multiple tasks at once. Some historians believe Leonardo used this ability to speed up his work or to record different thoughts simultaneously. It is also known that he used mirror writing, a technique where letters and words are read in a mirror, which might also be connected to his unique multitasking skills. Number 12. The volcanic year without a summer. The eruption of Mount Tambora was one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in history. It occurred in April and May of 1815 on the island of Sumbawa, in what is now Indonesia. The Tambora eruption is rated as a 7 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index, VEEA, making it one of the most powerful eruptions in the last few thousand years. The eruption expelled about 160 cubic kilometers of ash and magma. This volume makes the Tambora eruption the largest known volcanic eruption in recorded history. The volcanic eruption caused a significant drop in Earth's temperatures, known as the year without a summer. In 1816, temperatures fell by 0.51.0 degrees Celsius below average, leading to cold and rainy weather in Europe and North America. The lack of food and adverse weather conditions increased illness and starvation. Some regions experienced epidemics and higher mortality rates, causing food prices to rise and leading to social unrest. Number 13. The electric chair. Invented by a dentist doctor, Albert W. Smith, a dentist by profession, was one of the first to propose the concept of using electric current for execution. The idea of using electricity for execution emerged as an alternative to more brutal methods, such as hanging. In 1888, the first electric chair was built in New York, designed by engineer George W. C. Smith. The first execution using the electric chair took place on August 6, 1890 in New York State. The condemned was William Kemmler, sentenced for murder. This case demonstrated that the method was more painful and less humane than expected. The electric chair was used as a primary method of execution in several U.S. states for over a century. In the last decades of the 20th century, its use became less common, and many states replaced it with lethal injection or other methods. The effectiveness and ethical controversy of the electric chair influenced the development of the judicial system and led to discussions on more humane methods of carrying out sentences. Number 14. Sergeant Dog in France. Pedro was found on the streets of Hartford, Connecticut, USA in 1917. He was a stray puppy who became a favorite of the soldiers of the 102nd Infantry Regiment. When the 102nd Infantry Regiment was deployed to France, Pedro followed them and managed to enter the trenches despite strict rules and checks. Pedro participated in numerous battles, including the battles of Champagne and the Argonne Forest. He saved many lives by locating wounded soldiers and alerting them to enemy approaches. He was given the rank of sergeant, making him one of the few animals to receive a military rank. Pedro was awarded medals by the French Army for his service and heroism, and he became an honorary member of the American Legion. Pedro was posthumously honored, with his medals and uniform displayed in the Dog Hall of Fame Museum in St. Louis, Missouri. Number 15. The first submarine of the 17th century, Cornelius van Drebbel, 1572–1633, was a Dutch alchemist and inventor. He worked on various mechanical and chemical devices, including the first practical submarine. In the 1620s, Van Drebbel developed a submarine shaped like a long cylinder. The boat was made of wood and covered with leather, making it waterproof. Van Drebbel used a system of ballast tanks for diving and surfacing. The boat had hand pumps to remove water from the ballast tanks for surfacing or to fill them for diving. Van Drebbel's submarine could dive to a depth of up to 5 meters, 16 feet, and stay underwater for several hours. The tests demonstrated the possibility of underwater navigation, but the boat was not intended for widespread use. Number 16. Mummy remains in artist paints. In the 18th and 19th centuries, European artists began using powder made from mummies to create certain shades in paints. This pigment was used as one of the components to achieve brownish-red hues. The paint powder was made from mummies, involving grinding and mixing the remains of mummies brought from Egypt and other ancient burial sites. The use of mummy remains was a way to achieve unique shades that were considered durable and rich. Over time, it became clear that the use of mummies raised ethical and cultural issues. Growing awareness of the problems associated with using human remains and advances in paint research led to the cessation of this practice. Number 17. Pizza and the Italian Queen. Margherita pizza was created in 1889 in Naples, Italy. The story goes that the pizza was named after Queen Margherita of Savoy, wife of King Umberto I. This fact was popularized by the story that the pizza was made in honor of the royal family's visit to Naples. Margherita pizza consists of simple ingredients: tomato sauce, mozzarella, and fresh basil. These ingredients represent the colors of the Italian flag: red, tomato sauce; white, mozzarella; and green, basil. This gives the pizza not only flavor, but also symbolic significance. According to one version, the pizza was developed by pizzaiolo Raffaele Esposito at his Pizzeria Brandy. He presented 3 types of pizza to the royal family. One with basil, mozzarella, and tomatoes was chosen as the symbol of the Italian flag. In gratitude for the honor, he was asked to name the pizza after the Queen, which he did. Number 18. The first robots of the 18th century. Automata are mechanical devices that perform certain actions automatically, often mimicking human behavior. One of the most famous early automata is the musical doll, created by Swiss master Jean-Frédéric Lauder in the early 18th century. Another notable example is the chess player, known as the Turk. Built in 1770 by Hungarian master Wolfgang von Kempelen. The Turk was a mechanical figure who played chess. It consisted of many parts, including complex mechanisms to simulate playing. Inside the device was a person controlling the figure, which was hidden from viewers. Another famous example is the musical woman, created in 1770 by Swiss master Jean-Frédéric Lauder. This automaton was a doll that played a musical instrument. The complexity of such automata lay in the hundreds of parts, such as springs, gears, and levers, which together created the illusion of automatic execution of complex actions. Automata in the 18th and 19th centuries often consisted of hundreds of parts and were engineering masterpieces of their time, combining art and mechanics in unique devices that amazed viewers. Number 19. The very mysterious colonization of Africa. The colonization of Africa began 400 years later than the colonization of the Americas, despite Africa being significantly closer to Europe. For example, the distance from the southern coast of Spain to the northern coast of Morocco is only 13 kilometers or 8 miles across the Strait of Gibraltar, while the distance between Europe and America, from Lisbon to New York, is about 5,400 kilometers or 3,355 miles. After Columbus's discovery of the Americas in 1492, European powers such as Spain and Portugal began actively colonizing the New World, seeking to exploit its resources. Throughout the 16th and 17th centuries, Europeans established numerous colonies in North and South America. At the same time, Africa remained free from colonization. Until the late 19th century, Europeans were mainly involved in trade on the African coasts, especially in slaves, without attempting to control the interior territories. It was only with the onset of the scramble for Africa, or race for Africa, in the 1880s that European countries such as Britain, France, Germany, and Belgium began actively seizing and colonizing African territories. This occurred more than 400 years after the colonization of the Americas.